Welcome in on a Monday, 3304 daily, February 21st. Dan Steinbach, Ryan Wilkes, and our producer's chair. Usual suspects here on a Monday. Colby Talley, Julian Ferdman, Colbjorn Bergstrom. We have a jammed-packed show for you today. A lot of topics to get through. Hope you guys had a fun weekend. If you're a Virginia Tech fan and you paid attention to what happened this weekend, that might not be the case. Let's just dive right into it here on a Monday. VT had a big weekend this weekend. I mean, we've been talking about it. I mean, last week we highlighted a lot of what was going on. Talked about how all of these teams that were playing this weekend had big matchups. You know, how they had a lot of positive momentum going on. They were on hot streaks, and then they had these really just big games or matches over the weekend that could really, I don't know, highlight their season, be the highlight of their season, help them, rise in the ranks of the conference, in the national spotlight. And unfortunately for those teams, they just weren't able to come up with it. Where do you guys want to start? Do you guys want to start with the basketball teams? Do you guys want to start with men's basketball? All right, I'm getting some head shakes. All right. So let's start there. Man, that game, just listening to it, I was not able to attend. I was working that day, unfortunately. But just listening to the game, watching the game as it progressed through the first half, and then listening mostly to the second half, just hearing the same thing over and over again of this team not being able to make their shots, and going back and watching, that looks like a typical Virginia Tech game. The only difference is recently during the win streak, those shots have been going in. Those weren't contested shots; they were open shots. The offensive scheme was working well. It looked very similar to the UNC game earlier this season where Bacot and just their size inside was able to really hurt Tech. And look, Keve Luma had a good game. It really came down to the fact that they could not make their threes. And I'm not going to say the phrase that I hate the most. If someone does during this segment, I'm going to throw my hat across the room. But no, this team does shoot a lot of threes, and they rely a lot on those threes going in. And that just didn't happen on Saturday. And look, if that was just a game that took place in early December, we're looking at it and say, hey, you know what, there's still a lot of season to go left. That felt like that could have been their season, I look back on my giant Oregon State monologue, and I think to myself, oh yeah, they can drop a game here or there. When you look at the numbers now, that looks a little less likely. It looks very unlikely that this team is on an inside track to an NCAA tournament berth. At this point, I'm in the mindset that they have to win the ACC tournament now. I don't think they get an at-large bid. If they get to the finals, do I think with some luck they find themselves in the last four in and find themselves in that first four? Maybe. But right now, metrically they look really good. But at the end of the day, they don't have those wins. And that Miami game, which is it should be quad one, because I think Miami is currently in the top 75. They're going to be on the road, so that does count as a quad one win if they walk out of there with a win. That is their real last chance to give themselves a boost metrically, to give themselves a quad one win. I don't know how they take into consideration tournament games, but there's not a lot of top 50 teams in the ACC to begin with. It really is crushing to see how that game was played. Just the fact that what transpired was the reason that they lost. It wasn't necessarily their fault. They just had a cold game, and it was the wrong time to have one, because it's not like they were going up against a Pitt, who is just, there's a talent differential there. North Carolina has talent. They are one of the more talented teams in the conference. Maybe on the national scale, they're not that great a team, but they're still good enough that if you have a poor shooting day, you can't just overcome that on talent alone. So we've got a lot to get to today, and this is just one facet of what happened over the weekend for Virginia Tech. So I really think that is the storyline that comes from men's basketball. Let's throw it around real quick, because, again, we have a lot to get to, because, my God, there was so much that happened this weekend, and I don't really want to delay anything else that we have on the show today to the week. So we could maybe even table some of this Virginia Tech stuff to discuss more in depth as the week goes along. But let's just go through it quickly. Let's go to Ryan first.
Yeah, I just want to say these are two teams that net rankings wise are very similar. Actually, Virginia Tech, as of this moment, sits just one spot ahead of North Carolina in the net rankings. And that was an opportunity for either team to get their first quad one win. Virginia Tech does not have a quad one win. And to not have a quad one win at this point in the season, when you had 5 or 6 opportunities to do so, and you have a seventh one coming up soon, it's just not an ideal situation for a team that wants to make the tournament. And beating Miami would be good for the resume purposes, but like you said, Dan, I think this team has got to either win the tournament or get to the finals to even have a chance of getting in the tournament. I mean, obviously winning the whole thing would get them in automatically, but I think getting to the finals, if especially if they get through a Duke or a North Carolina, there could be a case made. Um, but this is just it's hard to really see a pathway in which Virginia Tech can get there without winning the tournament. So should be an interesting last couple weeks of the season. But this was Tech's chance, like you said, Dan. It was basically the season. I mean, you felt it in the air in Castle. It had that type of atmosphere, and they just weren't able to get it done.
All right, let's go on to the bullpen for the day. Colby Talley, you're our co-host, so why don't you start us off there?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps out about this game, obviously, is the 3-point shooting. This is very much a team live by the three, die by the three, and the last.
He said that. He said the saying. He said the saying. I'm sorry. Continue, but man, I don't like that phrase because people say it way too many times. All right, continue. I'm sorry. I'll calm myself down.
Well, I'm right, right? I mean, come on. They shoot like way over 25 threes a game. And I mean, it's the only part of their game that really shines, other than when Keve Aluma can actually play well in the post when he's not playing a 7-footer or whatever. But I mean, for past 2 weeks they were shooting really well from outside, and then in this game they just fall off hard against a team in North Carolina, which, checking the ACC stats right now, they are 10th in the conference in opponent 3-point field goal percentage. So they're not really that good at guarding the perimeter shot. So the fact that Tech just falls off like that against a team that's not known for their perimeter defense is very telling. Now, as for everything else, I do agree. The lack of a quad one win does indeed suck. They're going to need to win against their next 2 games, Georgia Tech and Miami, to even have a chance at winning the tournament.
I mean,
Or
they have to go
not winning
4
the
0.
tournament,
They have to go
winning.
4 0 down the stretch. I mean, I don't think anyone's disagreeing there. They have to go 4 0, and they'll have to win some games in the tournament. Like, they can't just. They can't drop another one. I feel that's the sentiment right now. All right, let's move on. Julian Ferdman.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Other than I thought defensively, we actually played a pretty fine game. There were just some guys that were hit, like Caleb Love. He was hitting some tough shots now. There was like 3 or 4 NBA range step back threes that he hit. And Caleb Love is he last year he was the number 2 point guard prospect in his recruiting class. So this guy has a lot of talent, and he's starting to put it all together for North Carolina. So I think that his shots alone kind of swung the game. Obviously Baycott had a nice second half, but like, no, I for Tech moving forward, obviously if they don't want to rely on winning the ACC tournament, they need to go undefeated the rest of the regular season, just to even be in the conversation. I'm totally with everyone else when it comes to that. Yeah, I mean, it's it's a disappointing loss without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it won't really show on his field goal percentage there, but I mean, Julian, said it with Caleb Love. Caleb Love was ridiculous on Saturday. Like there was, I think, it 4 3-point shots that it was like coming down to the last second, or he had a hand in the face or something, and it just drained. Like he could not miss on some of those shots that he took, particularly in I think in the second half, I believe. But I mean, really, the biggest concern in which I'm not gonna say the phrase for you, Dan. Just to to where you don't have to go and storm around your room or anything here. But really, I think the concern is the lack of production of the 3-point games, not only in the first one, but actually in the first or the last 2 games. going 5-26 on Saturday and then going 5-20 on Monday, I believe. It's just two terrible 3-point shooting performances from Virginia Tech now for a team that's identity has been the shooting from beyond the arc. And I think that's going to be the biggest concern for Virginia Tech if they do want to go undefeated down the rest of the stretch, is getting those 3-point shots actually to drain in as they have been, to get back closer to that 40+% range that they have been hitting at. If they can't do it, I think it's kind of done and dusted on NCAA tournament shot, whether you go 4-0 going to the tournament or not. I don't think it's going to take a tournament win. I think if you go 4-0 and have a couple solid performances, they can probably find a way in. But I do think a tournament win would obviously secure it. It would obviously help. Going to the finals would obviously help. I think that'd lock us in. But I do think that these next 4 games are crucial, and it's going to be particularly crucial against Miami, who we beat away from home last year, I believe, and a team that beat us at the buzzer this year at Castle. We desperately need that game to go for us.
All right, let's shift gears here from the men's side. Let's go to the women's side here at Louisville yesterday now. And look, going on the road against a team that good is really, really hard. And they had not faced Louisville yet this season, so to be honest, I didn't really know what to expect. And I think what I saw when watching the game, that game came down to just a mismatch in the backcourt performances. I mean, Virginia Tech's starting guards, I mean, look at Shepard, Baines, King, Amore. They combined for 16 points the entire game. Van Lith for Louisville had 20 by herself. So that alone, like you're seeing a mismatch in the backcourt stats there. Elizabeth Kitley had a really good game, and I think the game plan for Tech was smart early on. They fell behind early, but they saw that Louisville was playing really physical defense. Like, they pressed all game, and they did a lot of reaching, and refs were calling it. So they were trying to get inside, get the ball to Kitley, and get fouled, go to the line, which they did a lot. They went to the line 26 times compared to Louisville going to the line 15 times. Louisville had 20 fouls on the game. So Tech was in the bonus for a lot of this. Kitley dominated the board. She had 21 on the game. Problem was they couldn't hit their threes. And Louisville couldn't really hit their threes either. But when so much of Tech's backcourt relies on the three-point shot, and Louisville's backcourt was able to get inside a little bit more, hit those mid-ranges, I think that's where a lot of the difference came in. So, look, at the end of the day, I think they would have liked to have seen themselves go in there and be more competitive, but I think the game plan just fell short. Unless you guys have anything to comment on, I kind of want to move on because, again, I want to go rapid fire on these because we can talk about these more later on in the week. Because I don't want to table what else we have today. All right, Ryan, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, I just want to say I believe that moves Louisville to 15-0 at home on the season, and that they might have caught Tech might have caught them at a bad time because coming off a pretty demoralizing loss against UNC, I think they were ready to go, and I think they were the more physical team, and they were just able to kind of assert their dominance against the Hokies on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say one thing, which is I believe there's only a couple games left here, and I believe they're both at Castle. At least that's what I was trying to check. And there's a big game this weekend against NC State. It's Miami and NC State. So for anyone that's listening that doesn't have a ticket or wants to get away to get into that Sunday night matchup or Sunday game matchup, go and see it. It's going to be great. Both teams are ranked, and NC State is number 4 currently in the nation. So it'd be a big, big game. So, yeah, I mean, otherwise, hard matchup against Louisville, as Ryan said.
Yeah, that NC State game is definitely one they need to win if they want to get on that 4 line for the tournament and host a weekend. All right, let's switch gears once again. Let's go to the Diamond. Let's look at baseball and softball. Softball was down in Tuscaloosa this weekend. They go 3-2. They go 3-0 against the teams they're supposed to beat. But then when they run into Alabama, I mean, it was tough, and both games were just massive pitchers duels. And man, let me tell you, the first game, watching Montana Fouts pitch, softball is it's crazy to watch because in baseball you can think of pitchers that have nasty pitches and they're go-to pitches, but you don't see them throwing it one at a time over and over and over again because then hitters will start to adjust, will start to figure it out. With softball, if you have the pitch, you can throw it every single like every single time, and hitters are still going to have a hard time adjusting to you. Montana Fouts threw the same rising pitch, I swear, 95% of the time against Tech, and they just could not hit her in that first game. And Richard had a really nice game as well. I think she struck out it was either 11 or 14 batters. I think it was 11. So she was great. I think the one inning that got to her, I think there was an error in the field. I think there was just a hit that got through. So Bama was able to just put the bat on the ball. And then for Tech in the second game, they had bases loaded in the top of the first inning. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, they get ahead. Lemley can pitch really well. They can limit what Alabama does offensively. They can come out of there with a 1-1 tie, and they can say, hey, yeah, we're in that tier of best in the nation. And they still might be. But then the next batter, it's a slap shot down the third baseline. Third baseman dives, catches it, tags the runner, out. Double play, and then the next batter gets out. So just really bad luck there in what could have been a first inning that, if that gets through, you're talking about 2 runs scored. You talk about a rally with no outs and maybe a couple extra runners in scoring position. You're talking about a 3-4 run inning in a game where Alabama only scored 2 against Lemley like the entire time. I mean, it could have really changed the tide for softball. So them going and punching up against Alabama, it's a tall task, especially on the road. Would have really liked to see them get a win there. Season's still long, but you can take encouragement out of the fact that their pitchers pitch so well. But at the same time, at the end of the day, if we want them to be involved in that national championship conversation, you gotta beat some of those teams, and those bats are going to have to wake up. We'll see how they do in ACC play. That's still a little bit away. They don't play here for like another 3 weeks, which is ridiculous to me. But no, when they come back, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of support behind this team because they do have lofty aspirations. All right, Colby, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about softball, and that's my beat, so I feel like I have to weigh in here a little bit. I didn't get to see a lot of those games. I was busy a lot with baseball play-by-play this weekend, but I did get to see a lot of the game afterwards. I watched some highlights and stuff and saw the stats. But obviously you don't like 2 losses to the same team the same weekend, but I think they will take, as you said, I think they'll take 1 to 2 run losses to that team. And I'll actually drop my fellow beat writer, Ishan Lamba. He just tweeted, Tech actually went from number 8 to number 7th in the nation as a result of their performances against Alabama. And I think it makes sense. I think they got a great team. I think they finally have a number 2 behind Rochard and Lemley. And I think this team is going to be very fun to watch. And they will get their chance to beat some of those teams. They got Florida State, Duke, and Clemson. All of them are ranked. Those are some good teams. If they can beat those guys, they'll definitely prove themselves to be a cut above the rest.
We know where Alabama sits right now?
Yes, Alabama is still number 2 as a result of this the weekend. Oklahoma's right above them.
Yeah, Oklahoma definitely has a good team. Did they win the national championship last year? I don't remember.
They did. They beat Florida State in the championship series.
All right, well, there you have it. So, I mean, you got the defending national champs. So, at the very least, nationally, Virginia Tech is getting some recognition for punching up. They did their job. They kept it close all the time. They couldn't get those runs across when they needed to. And even when they did, they got a little unlucky. So, tough pill to swallow there for sure. Do we want to talk baseball? Ryan, I know that's your beat. You've been saying, hey, the question is pitching. Now, I'm not going to act out here and say that UNC Asheville is going to be a College World Series team. Like, this ain't Vanderbilt that we're talking about coming to Blacksburg. But, they did what they're supposed to do. We know that they have explosive offensive players. Gavin Cross didn't even play the second 2 games of the series. But what did they outscore UNC Asheville, like 40-7 or something like that? It was a pretty high run differential to start off the season. So they looked really good, and they've got some young pitchers that pitched some gems this weekend.
Yeah, this is not a good UNC Asheville team that came in to Blacksburg. 15-33 last year, 14-26 in conference. But regardless, and like you said, this team did what they were supposed to do. And some stars came to show a little bit. I think there's a couple guys that I can just name off that are going to be big impact players, one of which being the freshman. I think his name, I can't remember his name exactly, but Carson DeMartini, I think his name was. Really, really impressive debut from him. First pitch he saw, he took over the left field wall. Obviously, you got guys like Gavin Cross, Cade Hunter's back doing his thing. He hit 2 home runs in 1 game, I believe. Maybe in the second game of that series where the Hokies put up 17 runs. So this again it's a team that it's going to be hard to tell exactly what this team brings to the table until it gets into ACC play. I think we already know a lot about softball because they face. I think softball is a little different scheduling wise with some of these invitationals and tournaments that they go to, where they're able to play, higher ranked teams. With Tech is obviously playing kind of a tune-up non-conference schedule in order to get them ready for the ACC play. So, yeah, good weekend for Tech. I mean, 3-0 on the weekend, you can't complain about that. I know some teams maybe lost some games that they shouldn't have this weekend, and Tech just took care of business. So they're back in action tomorrow. It might be a rainy one, but I might try to catch that one. And good start to the season, but there's a lot of question marks still need to be answered.
Colby, did you want to say something? I mean, I know you wanted to highlight the fact that DeMartini played really well this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan covered it though. I was just going to talk about DeMartini. He's good with the bat. I watched him. He played third base this this weekend in the series. He was very good out there. Very solid freshman out of Virginia Beach. Just keep an eye on that dude.
All right, well, there you have it. All right, let's just talk about wrestling real quick. They had a Commonwealth Clash matchup on Friday. Narrowly beat UVA. I did not expect that one to be as close as it did, but they come away with 20-15 win. And then on Sunday, they play NC State, not necessarily in a makeup. It wasn't really an exhibition because it counts towards the official record, but it's not a conference matchup. They still forfeit that match. So they go on the road and they fall 21-10. And now they just look forward to ACC play. NC State is the ACC regular season champs, and we had Ethan Owens on Friday. He's a big wrestling guy, so I would like to ask him some questions about that here. Maybe I can just save that for Friday, but yeah, I think if you want some more confidence in this team, seeing a closer result would have helped. But I mean, it can't be easy going for 2 matches over that 3-day weekend. That's not something that they prepare for all the time. So, I mean, the ACC tournament or the ACC championship is coming up, and they've got a lot of ranked guys, a lot of talented guys that you're going to see in nationals again. So we'll see how they step it up. We'll see how they respond. But that's your wrestling update. All right, let's move on now. What do we want to move on to? All right, let's talk a little bit of college. Let's talk a little bit about the ACC. So, where do we want to focus with this? Yeah, let's focus on the vote that just took place for the college football playoff. So the college football playoff committee, not really the committee, all the conferences got together, and this has been on the books for a while, this vote that was supposed to take place, and the playoff expansion did not pass, and it was a vote of 8-3, and those 3 conferences that did not vote for expansion were the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12, who for the past year now have been going under the moniker of the Alliance. Now, originally, the Alliance was this thought that it was a response to the SEC purging Oklahoma and Texas from the Big 12. And they did not want the SEC to have this giant power dynamic. They wanted to be a voting block that could, help balance the power in college athletics and specifically in college football. So the future of the college football playoff is put into question immediately with this move of OU and Texas to the SEC. And now we finally get the vote, and these 3 conferences are the 3 conferences that do not want to move. Now, here are some interesting things about this. First of all, the Pac-12 commissioner comes out and says, "Oh, I'm so upset at the fact that this got downvoted." It's like, dude, you were one of the conferences that downvoted it. So I don't get what that's about. And then second, you have the ACC. Why is the ACC doing this? Why are the ACC and the Pac-12 doing this? These are the 2 conferences that it's really hard for them to get teams in the college football playoff. They weren't present this past year. There are years where they're absent. Usually it's 2 SEC teams, you throw in a Big Ten team like Ohio State, and then you throw in the Big 12. The years where there's not 2 SEC teams, it's a toss-up between who's going to get it between the ACC and the Pac-12. So why are these 2 teams not voting to expand, or these 2 conferences rather, not voting to expand so that they have a higher chance of getting their teams in? Well, the argument is that if you expand the college football playoff, you're just going to leave room for more SEC teams to get in. And I can see that. And I understand that also underlying in this is the fact that these conferences, they don't want all the power going to ESPN when it comes to TV rights, to distribution, because they want as much money as possible. So they want as many media companies fighting for rights for these games. as possible. Like they don't want an 18 playoff where these, let's call them quarterfinals, this round of 8 is being played only on ESPN. They want to have, you know, SEC home games being on, I don't know, CBS or NBC, whoever we want to pay for them. So they want diversity in that aspect. But I don't understand why the ACC and the Pac-12 are doing this, because this is really a Big Ten move. The Big Ten is trying to negotiate new TV contracts in 2023. So they are just holding off on expansion until then. And what's funny, too, is the Big Ten doesn't even know what it wants, because Ohio State AD Gene Smith said he doesn't know why the Big Ten is even in this alliance with the ACC and the Pac-12 to begin with, because he was saying that we don't really need them in terms of ratings. In terms of money, we overshadow them, which is very true. So the whole thing's a mess. But I want to focus on the ACC side of things, and I guess I can just get your guys' opinions on this as well. Why have we not expanded? Is expansion still even imminent? Is it still something that we think is going to happen? And from the ACC's perspective, I get it. They're in the alliance voting block. But what positive is there for the ACC not voting for this? Let's start with Ryan here.
Yeah, like you said, Dan, it's a little bit puzzling, especially for a conference that, struggles to get even one team in. Clemson wasn't in this year, and that's usually the team that's up there. So I don't know. It's really puzzling, kind of, as to why the ACC might have not voted on this. Like you said, it might have something to do with like the media money or where the games are being shown. But I do think it's still imminent. I think it's bound to happen. It's only something you can fight off for so long. Eventually, I'm always going to watch it, but some people might decide, hey, it's the same stuff every year, same team, same result. It's always going to be Alabama and Georgia, whoever it may be, and it might just get old to people. I mean, I love college football. I will always watch college football, but I know people that this year just didn't even tune in. Some of the biggest college football fans I know were like, I don't want to watch this. It's just the same stuff every year. I need to see a change. So I do think eventually there's going to be some forced change, but not exactly sure when that'll be. I kind of thought it would be moving in the direction at this point in time, but obviously it's not. So we'll see where that goes eventually, but I do think it's definitely imminent, but I'm not really sure as to why the ACC might have not voted in favor of this.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that expansion is imminent. I kind of want to focus a little bit on this fear that the SEC is going to be monopolizing all this power. And basically, I don't know if this is a myopic viewpoint, like a short-sighted angle, so to speak. Basically, what I would tell the ACC is just, get good. If you're worried about the SEC monopolizing all this power and getting all the television rights and having all the playoffs be aired on their stations, then just field better teams. I don't know what else to say. Like the SEC is just so far ahead, and the only way to catch up is just improve your product.
All right, Colby, before we move on to Julian Colburn and then take a break, I want to table that. I want to put a pin in that because I'm glad that you have this opinion. I think, are you back on Wednesday? I'm not looking at the schedule right now.
I may not be. There is a scheduling conflict that may take me off, and you may need to replace me.
So, all right, so then I'm gonna table this until you're back on, because I want to have this conversation with someone, and I'm glad that I have you that has an opinion on this already. And it's all about, how do we improve college football? How do these conferences catch up? All right, let's move on to Julian and Colburn real quick. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk NBA, and we'll keep rolling.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because when you look at the ACC, they're kind of trying to act like the moral arbiter of this whole thing, right? The statement that Jim Phillips put out, or the ACC put out, was that there should be other focuses of college football. But like when it comes down to it, like you look at like these television executives and the whole thing, like they're looking to make as much money as possible. That's the end goal, right? So I think for all the conferences, playoff expansion, whether you talk about it like devaluing the regular season, there's a bunch of different stances that people have on this, but I think overall, I think that expanding the playoff would be good for college football, especially for a conference like the ACC, who hasn't, apart from Clemson, the past 5-6 years, hasn't really had a dominant presence. So, yeah.
Well, it's something that we've talked about even leading up to the college football playoffs, right? It's like the name of the game for the college football playoffs as a whole is really becoming more of a fact of name value. It's why you didn't have so many of like these smaller teams, outside the Power Five, really not getting games, and why it was such a struggle for Cincinnati to get into that top four. It's name value and it's kind of who you're facing. So in that sense, it is mind-boggling why a Pac-12 and an ACC and like these conferences are not voting for it. Because if you want to talk about name value, let's talk about the ACC. We've talked about it for the entirety of the season. That ACC basketball is at a very low point in what it has been for a while. So that name value, in a sense, could be very detrimental to March Madness and knock out teams like Virginia Tech and Miami and whatnot. Why Miami hasn't been rated in the top 25 this season is kind of the name value of that program. And in particular, you got to go and then look at it for ACC football. So many people are talking about how good NC State's going to be next year. And some of these other teams, like possibly Pittsburgh with, what is it, Slovis coming in, I believe, the USC quarterback transfer. And, these teams are going to be good, but is the committee really going to be like, oh, this maybe like 11-2 or 10-2 or something like that? NC State should get in over like, an equal record Georgia or something. No, like they're not going to do that. And they aren't going to look at some of these other teams and they're not going to give them that. So I don't know why those conferences are voting against. They need to kick moral compass out of the way. These are all corporations. Come on, you don't BS it. I think this is just a huge issue for them. And the only good news is what I remember from the most from the story is the fact that in 4 years' time, I believe that this contract's going to be up anyways, which is then going to really bring up this discussion again and probably force the issue of you have to expand the college football playoffs. So whether these conferences like it or not, in 4 years' time, it's probably going to change to a larger field than 4 teams. So if you really don't want to watch Alabama versus X team for the next 4 years, that's your choice.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit of NBA All-Star Weekend and wrap up with our, let's call it first official edition of What You're Watching. You're listening to 3304 Daily. Stick around.
We welcome you inside Cassell Coliseum, where today the Virginia Tech Hokies and the North Carolina Tar Heels would do battle in a crucial matchup between two teams that sit on the bubble. Murphy on the inbound, gives up to Justin Munt to the top of the rimmer, tries to look on down, finds Aluma, goes up, but denied by Baycott. Carolina has numbers coming the other way, a deep three from R.J. Davis, and that will silence the air ball chance as it falls through the basket, and North Carolina is feeling it. Drives inside, gets his defender to fall, layup cannot go as Puff Johnson played great defense. Now bounce past the Couture, inside of Justin Munt, right-handed layup is good. A nice defensive pickpocket from the Hokies turns into 2 points, and Virginia Tech up 24-21. He's on that far side trying to back down Darius Maddox. Can't find anything. Caleb Love for a deep triple. Oh my! What a three from Caleb Love. A 7-point lead for North Carolina, their biggest of the game. Caleb Love drives inside. A wide open R.J. Davis. Oh my! North Carolina cannot miss. 7 of 12 from behind the arc.
Storm drive to the inside, looking for somewhere to kick it out. Keve straightaway three, and he knocks it down. Keve Aluma from the top of the key, nothing but net. Caleb Love, top of the key, gives it off Manic, right wing. Manic back to Caleb Love on that T of the VT logo. Caleb Love, deep three, step back, and he knocks it down. Caleb Love puts the three-point fingers up to his eyeballs, looking through the goggles of a possible North Carolina pull-away lead. Naheem Aline off the feed from Murphy, knifes his way to the inside, and one bucket, Naheem Aline, and that's what the Hokies needed. Right wing Justin Much, dish inside, Aluma trying to back down Baycott, lays it up and in with the left hand. Keve Aluma extends that left hand up into the Blacksburg air. Drive to the inside, backing down Brady Manic, lays it up and in with the left hand. Count it, and the foul. Justin Mutz will go to the line for a chance at a three-point play. RJ Davis goes at Murphy. Dish to Manick, who slams it down and silences the crowd in Blacksburg.
That was Andy Losi and Giovanni Heater calling the men's basketball loss for 33-04. Also, just a quick flashback to talking women's basketball. I don't know how we didn't mention this. Congrats to Asia Shepard, now the leading scorer in Tech women's basketball history. She broke the ACC record for three-pointers made in a career just about a week ago. So now she finally gets that Virginia Tech record under her belt. Obviously, she would have liked to come away with a win on Sunday as well, but there's still opportunities for her down the stretch. All right, let's shift gears here to NBA All-Star Weekend. I know that was a major focus of what we were talking about watching on Friday's show. So I think the main thing that we can talk about here, that we can focus on in terms of the events that happened, is the dunk contest. I think that there is a lot of malice towards this year's dunk contest. And look, no offense to Obi Toppin, but I mean, well, first of all, when Jalen Green just kept missing his dunks, I turned it off. I'll be completely honest with you. I could not make it through the rest of that because it was embarrassing. And it was not well executed. And I went back and I watched Obi Toppin's dunks, and I'm sure compared to the rest of the crowd, they were better, but those are not the most exciting dunks that I've ever seen. And I can't say that one of them were really that great. And it looked like two of them were the same. But here's where I think a problem with me comes in, is that at this point, we've seen a lot of the same dunks before. You know, how many times can you have a variation on a 360, on a windmill, on a between the legs, on an off the backboard? You know, with so many years, I think at this point it gets to a point where we've seen it all. Now, I think that the only way to really re-liven the dunk contest comes through the use of props. Like, get the Blake Griffin jumping over a car, get Dwight Howard out with the Superman cape, get Aaron Gordon, obviously, with the Magic mascot. I mean, that's still the most incredible dunk that I've ever seen. And again, I think the names of the players, not really, you know, these aren't the highlighter guys of the NBA. These aren't, you know, the superstars. These aren't the guys that everyone knows. So I think that there's a problem there. I think that the format is a little bit broken. I think that we need to really start to consider, hey, if these guys are just going to keep missing their dunks, you know, how many attempts should they get before it starts to get boring? I don't know. I think that there are changes that can definitely be made because it's no longer the premier event of All-Star Weekend. It is the three-point contest. And seeing Karl-Anthony Towns, a big man, win it, a guy that doesn't even shoot 40% from three over the season, it's a little shocking, but it's at least exciting. Seeing what happened at the dunk contest and that being in the closer for the night, I just don't think that excites me as much anymore. And I think we're a little bit spoiled because we have flashbacks to 2016 and Levine and Aaron Gordon. And I did go back and I watched all of Aaron Gordon's dunks from his 2 dunk contest appearances. He made all of them on his first attempt, except one. There was one that he did not make on the first attempt, but then he made it on a second. So in terms of degree of difficulty, but making it look easy, I think that is an aspect of the dunk contest that is just kind of going away. I don't want to focus too much on it. If you guys have any other comments from All-Star Weekend, you're welcome to do it. There is one soundbite that I want to get to from LeBron that's been making waves. So I want to talk about that, and then we can get into the end of the show. So let's start off here with Ryan.
Yeah, so I just want to point out a little stat. This is a second straight year where there's not a single 50 in the dunk contest. So this was a dunk contest in which there's a lot of dunks that you had to run it back and look at again to really get the the degree of difficulty. Obi Toppin, I believe, on one went between the legs, off the backboard, and then in, but it's hard to tell on first look what exactly happened there. So I don't know. It wasn't very entertaining. I think there's a couple attempts with props. I think Cole Anthony's Timberland's dunks was kind of cool, and I think it's a little understated how difficult it is to dunk in heavy-duty shoes like that. So I thought that was cool, but again, not really what I expected. And I do think the skills challenge is gaining steam and one of the more entertaining contests. I had a lot of fun watching that. There's 3 different groups that won, I believe. Rookies, the Cavs, and the Antetokounmpos did it. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed watching that. And I think that was honestly maybe my favorite part of All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with the dunk contest. I've been waiting to kind of vent about this. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, Dan. Hasn't been good since 2016. I think a lot of that is just star players not wanting to be in it. Like skills competition, that's getting you moving a little bit, but nothing that'll really hurt your bad if you mess up or something. 3-point competition, it's just jump shots. Dunk contest, you could screw yourself up for the rest of the season if you're not careful. So I think that's the reasoning. I don't like it, but I get it. And y'all bring up the topic of props. I just want to shout out Jalen Green's first dunk where he put the NFT on his neck. I turned off the television immediately when I saw that. Like,
You see, you have if you're gonna use a prop, you have to execute, right? You can't you can't use a prop like that. You can't be like he's iced out with his own NFT. It's all of his highlights on his chain, and he just goes out and he keeps failing over and over and over again. Someone said NFT. Someone said NFT stands for 9 blanking times he has to miss a dunk before he hits it. Like. It was crazy to me, and I couldn't watch after that. And from what I saw from the rest of the reaction, the rest of whatever I missed wasn't anything crazy.
Exactly. I mean, not even getting away from the fact that NFTs in and of themselves are gross to me and a lot of other people. I turned off the television. I'm like, all right, I'll come back after 5 minutes because I actually do want to see how the dunk contest ends, right? But I'm not watching that crap, right? So, it's just, and I came back to see that he finished last, and I was just like, yes.
And this is a guy that I think a lot of people expected to at least contend for it, because look, my feelings towards Jalen Green as a Pistons fan aside, he's an exciting player, and he can fly, and we saw it in the Rising Stars game. He dropped 20. He had some exciting plays, some flashy dunks. Honestly, he had a dunk where I think it was off the backboard toss from Cole Anthony, and that was more exciting than anything he did in the dunk contest. Like just that in-game feeling of catching it off the glass and throwing down a nice dunk, like with power. It felt better. And I think that too, I think that some of these guys try to overcomplicate things. All right, Coburn, let's go to you.
Yeah, I mean, mostly what I was going to say for the dunk contest, particularly for all the tries that had to be taken, is just do the good old Olympic thing with like high jump and whatnot. They get 2 strikes. If I remember right, like you have one because like, okay, you messed up, it's fine, you'll get 1 more, and then if you get your second X, you're out. That's it, period. And in particular, you really shouldn't like be in a position to mess up like that. I mean, you have all the crazy dunks that we listed that has been highlights of NBA All-Star weekends for years and years and years. So, I would be shocked if they either did that in their first time or even more than that, like if they didn't really go over and over and over it. It feels like these people just kind of made it up on the spot and it was boring. So just actually make sure that you know what you're doing and give it the good old Olympic 2 tries and you're out, because that's kind of embarrassing that you just let them go over and over and over and over and over again until they can finally hit it.
One thing that I think we can do, and Julian, I'll throw it to you for the last word. I think that one way that we can improve something like the dunk contest and the All-Star game a little bit too, and I know that this won't fly, I think that something that would be more entertaining for fans to watch is something more along the lines of what you see at a place like famous Rucker Park in New York. When Kevin Durant goes to Rucker Park and the entire community's there and they're just watching this dude embarrass guys left and right, like it's like just it's street ball is what it is. They're trying a little bit more. They're playing, NBA basketball. I think one thing we can incorporate into the dunk contest is posters. I don't think anything is more exciting in a basketball game than a nice poster. Just throwing down on a guy that's like bigger than you or smaller than you, just embarrassing him, throwing him to the floor. Like that to me is better than any like fancy dunk. And I kind of brought that up with like the Pro Bowl and how, hey, what if we did this where it was one-on-one, where it was a receiver going down with a cornerback, just like run straight, throw a jump ball, see who wins. And I know that the athletes won't go for that because no one wants to get embarrassed, but I think from an entertainment standpoint, I think that can give us a better product.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I want to go back to your point about, the in-game dunks. I think when it's more organic, it's a lot more exciting. And I think it takes a lot of that stress away from players trying to, they know what they're trying to do in the dunk contest. In the game last night, John Morant had a dunk that I believe would have won the dunk contest had he done it in the dunk contest. I think he caught it 360 in the air, caught it and dunked it, and it was incredible. And I think Jalen Green is perfectly capable of doing stuff like that, as is everybody else in that contest. But when you're given that task and only that task, I think it can become a mental thing, and that's what kind of especially with a young guy like Jalen Green, it kind of boiled over into that, and he was kind of in his head and not really able to complete the dunk as he wanted to. And I think it was Josh Christopher, the guy that was throwing it to him on the baseline there. It's not easy to do that either. And I can't imagine being the guy trying to lob it to whoever was dunking. So that could have played a role as well. But I think the in-game dunks are a lot more organic and are a bit more exciting to watch nowadays.
Julian, you have anything to add?
Yeah. No, as a Knicks fan, it was cool to see a Knick win something. That doesn't happen very often. No, I thought the dunk contest overall was pretty overwhelming. And even though Obi had some like really cool dunks, I thought like the way he dunked the ball, there wasn't like a very loud finish at the rim. Like it didn't seem very forceful, if that makes any sense. But no, I think a way to improve it would definitely be to have more of like what I would add is like a 3-on-3 style kind of thing in the half court where you just have three like amazing players just going at it. I think it would be a lot more of a skill-based environment. I think that would be really cool to have a 3-on-3 tournament. Like maybe that instead of the Rising Stars Challenge, they could do a 3-on-3 tournament with the young guys. I think that would be really cool. But no, I think this All-Star weekend as a whole was probably a success. The dunk contest was a little overwhelming, but no, I thought the way the league has implemented this new format has been phenomenal, honestly. It was a really good job by Chris Paul to introduce it in the first place. It makes it so much more fun. You can tell the guys they lock in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I was very entertained last night watching that game.
Yeah, kudos to the NBA for trying to keep it fresh a little bit. It's tough. I mean, I know in pre-show we were talking about Josh Donaldson saying that, and what I agree with, the MLB is the only All-Star game where it looks like you're trying, because you kind of have to. You can't just not try to hit a baseball. You can't just not try to strike a batter out. He also mentioned the NHL, which I disagree with a little bit. I think that they play a little lax in hockey's All-Star game as well, but I digress. But also, Julian, to your credit, bringing up yourself as a Knicks fan. As a Pistons fan, it's really weird going back and watching the 2016 dunk highlights and remembering that Andre Drummond was in that dunk contest and he was terrible. Oh God, it was horrible. We forget that now. All right, Ryan, do you have one more quick thing to say before we get to Kolbjorn and the bubble watch?
Yeah, Kolbjorn, I don't mean to cut into your time, but I just want to say the way the NBA has integrated this new system, this new rules format, and kind of an incentive. You got the charities that each team picks out, and they're able to, the winner, I think it was $100,000 to the charities of their choice. I think that was really cool, and I think it creates a much more competitive game at the very end. And we saw the numbers-wise the second best All-Star performance of all time with Steph Curry last night. So that was a lot of fun. So I think, there is room for these All-Star games to become more competitive. It's a matter of, can they implement these rules, and will they implement these rules, and do the players even want them to? But I think the NBA All-Star game for me is probably one of the most enjoyable ones to watch as of right now.
All right, let's swing it over to Kolbjorn Bergstrom, and let's talk a little bit of March Madness as it's coming closer and closer. He's got the bubble watch for us. I would love to overlay the CBS college basketball anthem, but for reasons of legality, I won't for now. I'll see if I can do that later, because, man, I would love to get some extra music and some, better atmosphere for the show. All right, I'll go over to you. Hate to kill as much time as we did for you today, but let's just try to keep it tight, and we can get to what you're watching in the final minutes of the show.
Yeah, the article here from John Gasaway on ESPN, I believe ESPN Plus. If you guys do have ESPN Plus, they do drop these pretty regularly, it seems like. I don't know if they change it or not. But I do want to go here through three conferences because I feel like a couple are a little bit boring, and they're all going to be in the Power 5, the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12. We're going to be talking about teams that are currently on the bubble and whether you guys believe that they should be in or whether that they should be out. If you have an opinion on it, please go ahead with it, of course. But otherwise, I mean, so some of the teams might be harder because you may not have caught their games. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead here, starting the ACC, the conference that we all know, and we're going to go ahead here with the Wake Forest Demons.
I'm going to go with absolutely yes. I really like their roster construction. I think they're a team that's solidly in. I think they're an 8 or 9 line team, but no, I really like them. I like what they've done. I think it's, I keep forgetting their head coach's name, but he's from the same conference as Mike Young. It's a very similar build of what he's doing with the program there, but all in all, the transfer talent that he's brought in has really injected life in that program. I'm going to go firmly yes. I like Wake Forest this year.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. And Steve Forbes has really put together a very transfer-heavy roster, led by Alondas Williams. He's one of the most exciting players to watch in the ACC. And, it's just very well constructed. You talk about, you need that instant jolt in the program to get him back rolling. That's exactly what he did. I think these are a lot of graduate transfers, but to kind of bridge the gap between, a rebuild and getting back to competing in the ACC, I think he's done an incredible job of that. And I think they're dark horse in the tournament. You got to watch out for those guys.
All right, anything from you, Julian, Colby?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with Ryan. Alondas Williams is an absolute stud. Yeah, I mean, Wake Forest, I think they've done a really good job. I think their coach is going to get a lot of buzz for that Louisville job, just because of the way that program can recruit when it's really up and running.
Yeah, I mean, Wake Forest came into Virginia Tech here, and if just like a few months ago and absolutely schooled them on their own home court. And if your team is playing a team that I support and you're making me angry, chances are you're probably a pretty good team. So I agree with the majority here.
Yeah, I mean, we're all there in with Wake Forest being in. How about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish here, who I believe have gone a little bit cold recently?
They just don't feel legit to me. They do have 2 quad 1 wins, which if it comes down to it, they'd be one of the better teams in the ACC on the bubble. I'm going to go no, only just because I don't like them as much as Wake Forest. I don't have that much advanced data on them. I haven't watched them a lot, but I'm just going to go no.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Just because those 2 quad 1 wins and being second in the ACC, I think it could be a bit of a robbery for them not to be. Second in the ACC, you take that with a grain of salt nowadays, but I think this is a good team. They don't have that punch that Wake Forest has. They don't have that dark horse energy that Wake Forest has. They've got a really good big guy, Paul Atkinson. He's really talented. I think he was Yale's leading scorer and player of the year in that conference, I believe. But yeah, they're a good team, and I think they get in maybe that 10 line, 11 line. But they don't have that dangerous potential that I think a team like Wake Forest has.
Yeah.
Colby?
Oh.
No, there you go. Yeah, no, you hopped in. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, go ahead, man.
I think Blake Wesley is a really good player. You talk about a freshman that was overlooked perhaps on the recruiting trail. He's really come in and made an impact for them. He's a really versatile player. He can pass, dribble, and shoot. I think that, especially when you look at who they've beaten Duke and Kentucky. Those are 2 blue blood programs. And I think they've had a really good season under Mike Brey because last year wasn't that good for Notre Dame. I think they're more than deserving of being a tournament team. I actually like them more than Wake Forest because of Blake Wesley, just how talented he is as a young player.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly on the fringe. I mean, I don't have much to add. They're on the fringes of contention there, but I agree they might slip in. I just looked at their KenPom ratings. They're about 58th with adjusted offense of 53 in the nation and adjusted defense of 77. So make of that what you will.
So to get some time in here for the last segment, let's just go straight up to in or outs here then. Let's go ahead and go with Miami, and we'll just one word it. I do agree, though, Ryan, in for Notre Dame.
Oh, God, that one's tough because they've slowed down. I'm going to go in. They have the quad 1 wins.
It's hinging on this Virginia Tech game, but I'm going to say in.
In.
I'll join you all with in North Carolina.
In.
And
In.
They'll be in, but I think it's because they're a name. They're not necessarily a bad team, but they're a name. So I think they might get a little love from the selection guys.
A little bit of Michigan State from last year treatment. I like it.
Honestly, I could see this as like a low-key team to possibly win the ACC tournament. So in. How about Virginia Tech?
No.
out.
Not right now. Talk to me in like 3 weeks.
If they get to at least, if they can win out and get to at least the third round of that ACC tournament, then maybe, but that's unlikely. So that's very much on ice. Yeah.
I'm gonna say out, but it's very, very close for me. And maybe that's the optimist in me. How about the in-state rivals, Cavaliers?
Oh God. No, out.
The net ranking is killer. They're out.
Really nice win against Duke, but that's not enough for me. They're out.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Out.
It's gonna be very fringent upon Wednesday. If they beat Duke, they're in. Otherwise, I don't know why I don't think they will, but I don't think they will, so they're out for me as well. Moving on, Big 12 quickly. Iowa State.
Man, I feel like the metrics love them, but they're in that same boat as Tech. I'm gonna say out.
I think the quad one wins get them in, honestly.
Yeah, that hot start to the season. They're in for me.
Yeah, looking at their Ken Palm right here, they are a very, very weird team. 134th in unadjusted offense, but 7 in defense. That is crazy. That's pretty interesting. The metrics definitely love them. I think they might squeak in.
Honestly, I think our ACC expectations might need to be a little bit adjusted because so many Big 12 teams should be in, including Iowa State. How about the Horned Frogs, though?
I'm like really quickly just name searching here in the net rankings listing. All right, you're looking at 4 quad 1 wins. You're looking at 55, so they're a couple spots below someone like Tech. I'm gonna go out. I don't think TCU is a tournament team.
I want to say in. The Big 12 is a really competitive conference, one that's kind of cannibalized itself. And I think they've got plenty of opportunities down the road. So a lot could change. Got Texas coming up, Texas Tech, 2 games against Kansas. So you win 1, maybe 2 in that stretch. I think they're a lock.
Yeah, I think they're just on the bubble right now. I think they'd be like one of the first 4 out, but I think Ryan was right, hit the nail on the head. They got a lot of time left in the season to make this up, but out for now.
Yeah, I mean, right now I agree with Dan, but they don't have the wins. But I also agree with Ryan to an extent because they have the potential to get those wins.
I'm the Big 12 guy here. I'm just going to say it. They're out. They have Texas and Frank Irwin. They have Kansas and Allen. They have West Virginia and Morgantown. There's no chance they're winning 3 of those games. And even on top of that, another game against Kansas, another game against Texas Tech, and they're on a 3-game losing streak. They are out. Oklahoma Sooners.
Oh man, I can't just say out to all these teams. Here's the thing, I don't think any of these teams can make runs in the tournament. That's why I just am saying out on them because they're bubble teams. I'm gonna say, oh man, they're better metrically than TCU somehow. I don't know what their schedule looks like. I'm just gonna say out. That doesn't mean that they necessarily don't make it, but that just means I don't like them.
I'm going to say out as well. I don't think they're getting in.
Yeah, they are 2-7, 2-8 in their last 10 games. Downward spiral for OU. I'm out on them.
Yeah, I mean, they have the game against Texas Tech that they won, and they got another one. I mean, they got another one against Texas Tech coming up on the road, but right now they're out.
I mean, I wish. I've been a big fan of OU all year that they could be in. That they should be in. They have an incredible team, but as you guys said, 2-8 in their last 10. it's just not going to cut it. They needed wins against like TCU, Texas, twice against TCU. They lost both those games. Okie State. If they would have pulled off a few of those, they're guaranteed in. They're an incredible team, but they're going to be out, which leaves us with one last in the Big 12 before we go to the Big 10. That's going to be the Wildcats, Kansas State.
I know those are your boys, but I don't know much about them. I'm just gonna say out because I don't know. Actually, no, I'll say in. They're the one Big 12 team. I'll say in. I have no reason why, but I'll just say in.
Yeah, this is another Big 12 team that's kind of, if you had this record in any other conference, it's not really a question. You're out. But, I mean, this is a very competitive conference, arguably the most competitive one in college basketball. I'm going to say out just because they've had a couple opportunities to get big wins. You got to win over Texas Tech, but you lost to Kansas, Baylor, and then Baylor again. So some big opportunities that they had. But at Kansas coming up, so they might have a chance to redeem themselves.
Yeah, I agree that Kansas game is a statement game for them. But they're out for now. Like Ryan said, this conference it's a war zone. These teams kill each other in their tournament resumes. So yeah, I'm out on them.
I'm looking at their schedule right now. I think, unless I'm just terrible at counting, they've won 4 of their last 6, I believe, including a 15-point loss to Baylor, which isn't good. Put up a good performance against Kansas and maybe a win against Texas Tech and OU, and then we'll talk later.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a team that's really close. They have a couple of games that they would really like back, like away against Oklahoma, away against West Virginia, at home against TCU, and then most recently away against Okie State. If they would have beat Kansas and Manhattan and not choked that game, they'd be guaranteed in for me. I'm very close on this, and I'm only going to say that they're in because I think ESPN might have the committee might have a really big guy to watch out for on this team, and Nigel Pack, an incredible young guard. So I think that kind of name value could get him in. And there's a few teams here in the Big Ten. Actually, I'm going to try to be really quick with these. I'm actually going to go ahead and just go over 3 of them, and we'll go and start off with the first one being the Dan Sparties.
Oh, out. No, wait, actually, no, in. I'm sorry. They did way too much early. They are falling off a cliff right now. But no, they're in.
Yeah, they're in.
In.
I will go ahead and stick with y'all and say in. How about the most recently ranked big team, Iowa Hawkeyes?
Oh, geez. I don't pay attention to Iowa, but they're just a thorn in everyone's side. I'm going to say in. They feel like a 10 seed.
Yeah, they're in. They have one of the most talented players in the country in Keegan Murray. So I think he provides that spark for them and gets them in the tournament.
Yeah, all the way in. Keegan Murray's a top 10 pick. So, stud.
Yeah, that and a top 5 offense in the nation speaks volumes in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you guys on Iowa. I'll go ahead and actually run it with 2 more because one might be controversial. How about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights?
I'll go in. I think that they had higher expectations for this season, but I feel like they are doing just barely enough.
Yeah, I'm going to say in. They're going to be that 10 seed like they were last year and kind of, be a dangerous team. Ron Harper Jr. is a really good player, and they're well coached. So they had a big chance against Purdue, but they weren't able to take that one. But I think they still have enough to get them in.
Yep, they're right on the bubble, but I'll give them the spot they're in.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. In.
I mean, I would say just barely is a little bit of an overstatement here. They won 4 games in a row against ranked teams, and then only losing to Purdue recently. They are definitely in. They're actually one of my favorite teams, just to possibly do well here in the tournament. At least right now, they're heating up. And then last but not least, the Wolverines and what all has happened with them recently.
Out. They're trash.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. That the media really likes them and seems to want to hold on to that Michigan's going to make the tournament narrative, but I don't like them, and I think recent events might derail them going into the last stretch of the season. So I'm going to say out.
Yeah, I'm out. Big time recruit freshman Caleb Houston's had a really disappointing season for them. Yeah, I'm out.
Out.
And out. And that is that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Colburn. All right, let's do quickly what you watching. I will start. How about a little bit of women's basketball top 25 matchup in Iowa. Iowa just beat Indiana. They're playing them on a back-to-back. Caitlin Clark, obviously, player to watch, one of the best in the country, top scorer. Definitely going to be watching her. That's on the Big Ten Network at 8 o'clock.
I got to say Indiana and Ohio State tonight, 7 o'clock, Fox Sports 1. Ohio State's 6.5-point favorites. It's going to be a really good big man matchup. Trace Jackson Davis and EJ Liddell down low. I believe Indiana might have gotten them earlier in the season. I can't remember. Trace Jackson Davis just had 30 points a couple days ago. So this should be a really, really fun matchup to watch.
Yeah, I'm going with Baylor and Oklahoma State. Baylor's a joy to watch. I love the way they rebound the ball and play with that tenacity. That's on, I think that's at 9 tonight. Yeah, I'm throwing that on.
I'm just gonna keep it quick. We talked about TCU earlier. I think it's gonna be interesting to see whether or not they can manhandle West Virginia and put themselves more in the tournament conversation.
Since I'm not going to be on tomorrow, I do want to really point this out because it is the big game in my household. It is going to be the matchup tomorrow. Sunflower Showdown, Kansas versus Kansas State at Lawrence. Kansas had to come back to win the last time, and we'll see if Kansas State can have another really solid performance against them. It's going to be a good game.
All right, there you have it. Watch along with us if you please. Julian, Colby, and Colby, thank you for joining Ryan and I. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day, everyone.